Hello, I'm Dr. Thomas Maples, and welcome back to A Sacred Journey. Today we're going to have an exploration of faith, psychology, and finding inner peace. As it relates to the idea of psychology itself, or the logos of psyche, the study of psyche, which in ancient Greek was interchangeable for breath and soul, we begin to find elements of how our own personal development spurs from the capacity we have to simply have faith. In my last blog article, I explored a beautiful quote from St. Thomas Aquinas, who said, "To one who has faith, no explanation is necessary. To one without faith, no explanation is possible." Now, in pop psychology, a lot of times what we see is this idea of envisioning and manifesting and creating abundance. There are elements to this that have some validity, especially as it relates to the drive that is needed to create and manifest dreams from nothingness. Really, what ends up happening when we begin to have faith in some element, we naturally have to begin pushing into that direction. It really intertwines with the idea of Lao Tzu's saying that a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Where does the end of that 1,000 miles lie? Well, that's really dependent upon the person. It's dependent on the psyche that is ready to undertake a journey at hand. Some people may have high aspirations, and in order to move there, they have to take specific steps and continue to elevate within that perspective moving forward. However, that doesn't mean that a person's aspiration level, whether it be to the moon or whether it be to the sky or it be to Mount Everest or even to going, well, I come from California, so to Lake Tahoe, let's say. It doesn't mean that one's elevated heights are necessarily a comparison to others, or that we always have to move towards the beat of another person's drum, or in this case, the beat of another person's dream. What happens is, as we begin to undertake the steps necessary, if the journey's to the moon, what are the steps that are needed to get there? Well, a person may need to look at what types of degrees they may need to go to work for NASA, literally, or what they need to do to learn how to become valuable to, let's say, a space agency. Now, there are certain steps that people have undertaken in that regards, and if they've undertaken those steps, generally, many times they may be of assistance to individuals that need help trying to realize what steps A, B, C, D, E, F, G through Z they need to undertake to realize a dream. Now, as we have the path created or we create the path for us, sometimes within, let's say, educational settings, the path is laid before us. At other times, if we're creating a business, we may have or undertaking some journey that is a little bit different, that's not prescriptive. We may have to develop a path of our own. And when we develop a path of our own and we begin to test ourselves from the mile marker A to B, B to C, C to D, etc., what we end up doing is creating avenues from which our self-esteem arises. Now, self esteem, as it relates with psyche and psychological development, is a very important facet that helps us gain initial successes and ultimately turn them into further successes. If you could succeed from point A to point B, why not try point B to point C? And the tests can progress in a way such as that, but it's in our capacity to overcome those tests that we ultimately develop faith in ourself. To one who has faith, no explanation is necessary. How true is this? As we develop faith, we develop an inner belief in our capacity to realize that which is not yet known. There's always an experiment I'd love to do that relates to mindfulness. And if we close our eyes for just 1 minute and we allow ourselves to breathe and to relax, and we allow ourselves to just let go of the daily grind that's so commonly prevalent and shouted throughout the many avenues of social media these days. And we just allow ourselves to be in the moment and feel ourselves stationary, feeling. Where are you at? Are you feeling grounded? Now imagine for just 1 moment that gravity ceased to exist. Are we floating off? Of course not. We're still grounded. We're right here. Now, our dreams may take us to an elevated plane where we could feel ourselves maybe floating, and maybe we do, even in the elements of our nocturnal dreams. But we're always grounded in the here and now. Now, faith is that simple belief we have in something that's unknown. In this case, it's gravity. I mean, we've felt the effects of gravity our entire life, and we've never woken up floating in space. However, if small shifts happen and Earth stopped rotating, the gravitational pull would no longer exist. And then we might be in a little bit of trouble. Now, we don't question gravity, even though we don't see it, smell it, hear it, taste it, or feel it, although we do feel the effects of it, the aftermath of it. But we have faith in that capacity to remain grounded. We don't go to bed in fear, hopefully. We're going to wake up floating in space. Now, to one without faith, no explanation is possible. Do you have faith in gravity? I'm willing to bet you probably do. However, if you had no faith and you couldn't even believe in the thing that grounds you, what could you believe in? That becomes an element of Psyche's absolute need to create faith within its daily habits. Now, a lot of times we learn about faith as in religion or within a concept of God. Faith could be simple belief in something that's higher than what you are right now. It could be a higher power. It could also be a higher vision of self. In analytical psychology, we look at the idea of self-realization, or capital S-E-L-F, realization. Now, this is a Jungian concept that really looks at the idea of a higher order self being this thing we strive towards versus the lower self being the ego, or that thing that we present to the world. Now, both of these things are important, and not one is more important than the other, because the ego ultimately leads us to self, but only when it's mitigated and not to be expansive. The ego's a snapshot in time in this moment that helps move us towards this ideal self that it takes work towards. Now, in the idea of Jungian psychology, self-realization is this ultimate apex of self that in a lot of terms could be likened to the Buddhist construct of nirvana, although it's not quite exactly the same, because in the ideal of nirvana, it's an element of being blown out of existence, Whereas the idea of a self-realized state is still in this position of being in self. And so the two terms don't necessarily equate, but they're similar in the aspect of this higher order of presence when we're still here. Now, how prevalent is this? It's extremely, extremely rare. In fact, in lot and analytical psychology, believe that it can't be realized within a state, but it is a driving force that helps us to better ourselves throughout the lifespan. Now, to one who has no faith, no explanation is possible. But the one that has faith, maybe there's some elements of belief that you could turn to create that meaning, to create that explanation in life for those pressing questions that just simply have to be asked to help drive the development forward. To one who has faith, no explanation is necessary. How true is that? That's the test. But to what end? We may all eventually have the same end, but it is the elements of those tests that make up the story of the life we create. The faithful need not explanation because they understand the march they undertake to realize those dreams, those storylines they yearn to undertake and achieve. As for the unfaithful, the people that don't believe even in their own capacity, well, as St. Thomas Aquinas reminds us, no explanation is possible. Why? The foundational element here is simple belief. Can you believe? Can you have faith in something unknown? That's the question. Until next time, my friends, I thank you for joining me, and may blessings find you on your faithful journey to fill Psyche, to fill your heart, to fill your soul, and advance confidently in the direction of your dreams. Goodbye for now.